Hi, I'm Steph, a student that does IGCSEs at Wolsey Hall, and I'm here to show you my steps to preparing and completing an assignment.
Step 1. Canvas.
This is the app or website where you're going to get all the information and material you need to learn for your subjects. It is your ultimate learning source. On Canvas, you can do your modules and quizzes, turn your assignments in, receive your assignment marks, and message your tutors for any help. Canvas will be your best friend.
Step 2. Modules.
Every subject contains more or less 9 modules. Every module consists of topics where it gives you tasks you need to complete. Most module work will require you to read some pages, do various questions, and jot down some notes. For my first topic in Economics Module 5, I'll need to work through pages 124 to 125 in my course book. Then I'll need to write out some key points, and then I'm going to have to check out this website they have linked. I usually like to note down any new definitions that I've just learned into my notebook, and I also write down any extra information that I need to remember.
Step 3. Quizzes.
At the end of each module, there is a quiz that awaits to be completed. This quiz is there to test your knowledge from what you've just learned. These quizzes are usually multiple choice, which makes it quite easy and super fun. It is definitely a great way to revise for your upcoming assignment, as you can retake them as many times as you want.
Step 4. Revision and preparation.
Before doing assignments, it is important to revise and review everything you have just learned one last time. You can even do the quiz once more to make sure that you are fully prepared to do the assignment. Right before I start my assignment, I like to organize my desk space. I put out my assignment, my notebook, and a pen. And if I need to use my computer, I put that out as well.
Step 5. Assignments.
Now it's time to start. Every assignment has an instruction page where it will instruct you to either complete it under exam conditions or if it is an open book assignment. It will also show the recommended time limit. However, you don't need to follow this as it is just an assignment. On my economics assignment 5 instructions, it says that I need to write on lined paper using a black pen. It also further says to upload your work on Canvas. However, it doesn't say anything about working in exam conditions, so this is an open book assignment. After I finished my assignment, I scan it on an app called Cam Scanner and then send it directly on Canvas.
Step 6. Marks and feedback.
Usually, marks and feedback from your tutor will be given back to you within a week. The feedback you get from your tutor is very helpful as it tells you what you've done correctly and what you must improve on. With the feedback, you also get the specimen answers sheet, which gives all the answers to the assignment. And to make the most of my feedback, I do the questions that I've gotten wrong once more. This is just to make sure that I've understood the module and won't do the same mistake twice.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Wolsey Hall Oxford Homeschooling Information webinar for secondary level studies. We have families joining us from all around the world today, so a big welcome to you all. I'm Amber Hussain, Senior Admissions Officer at Wolsey Hall Oxford. Just to let you know, we are recording this webinar and we'll send out a link of the recording to all of you via a Zoom email in a few days' time. You will be able to rewatch this event and also to share it with any of your family and friends. The format for today will be a presentation followed by a question and answer session. You will find a Q&A section where you can type your questions at the bottom of your screens. However, don't type yet. We would recommend that you wait until after the presentation before adding questions, as we expect that many will be covered in the presentation itself. When it comes to the question section, please do include the age of your child and their approximate level of study, and your country is also helpful so that we can tailor our answers to you accordingly. Please do note that we will not be answering any questions that are very specific to an individual child today. For these types of questions, please submit an inquiry form on our website and our admissions team will get in touch to arrange an online meeting or a phone call to discuss your child's studies in detail. We will be putting up the website address for the inquiry form at the end of the presentation. I am joined here today by a number of colleagues, both from our admissions and our academic teams, who will be answering questions in the typed Q&A area and also alive in the discussion. But now I would like to introduce Ruth Young, Head of Secondary, who will start the presentation on secondary homeschooling with Wolsey Hall Oxford.
Thanks ever so much, Amber. I'd like to add my welcome as well. It's wonderful to see so many of you here this morning to learn about Wolsey Hall and the secondary homeschooling courses that we offer to our students around the globe. I'm delighted to be giving you this presentation this morning. In the presentation, I'm going to give you a little bit of background about Wolsey Hall Oxford, and then explain how our courses work, as well as giving you an overview of the subjects that we offer in each of the secondary phases at Wolsey Hall Oxford. So to begin, to tell you a little bit about the history of Wolsey Hall. We've been around for quite a long time. In fact, we were founded all the way back in 1894. Obviously, the provision that we gave to our students who were distance learners back in 1894 has changed somewhat. Back then, we were using the penny post system and communicating with our distance learners via paper and pen. Times have moved on, and I'm pleased to say that now Wolsey Hall makes full use of the plethora of resources that are available online and offline to best support our homeschooling students. Excuse me. So with Wolsey Hall, what level of courses do we offer? We actually offer courses all the way from primary up to A level. So we support homeschooling families with children from the ages of 3.5 years old all the way up to 18 years old. And we also count a number of mature students amongst our student body as well, who are studying to further enhance their qualifications or simply for interest. We are very pleased to say that we are supporting students in over 130 countries around the world. So we are very well placed at Wolsey Hall to understand the differences in terms of expectations on students around the globe, and to make sure that they are following curricula that is recognised on a global level by higher education and employers as well. Now, on the slide in front of you, you may recognise the gentleman that appears on there. We are very proud to count Nelson Mandela amongst our alumni at Wolsey Hall, as he studied some of our courses. However, for us at Wolsey Hall, we are so proud of each and every individual. And that's something that I really do like to make clear to parents who are considering Wolsey Hall as a homeschooling option. For us, it is about the individual child. And I do hope that the presentation as it continues will give you an insight into what your child could expect if you enroll upon homeschooling courses with us. So why might you choose Wolsey Hall Oxford? Well, one thing that we are committed to is developing a very strong partnership between us and you as a homeschooling family. We do recognise that each child is an individual and that they all may need to or wish to follow their own individual pathway. And with us, that is possible. We offer courses at different levels, and our admissions team and other key people that will support you on your Wolsey Hall journey will make sure that your child is selecting the subjects and the levels at which they should be working. In a mainstream school, students will typically follow their age-expected curriculum. Therefore, in a secondary school, this would mean an 11-year-old would typically be working in the Year 7 cohort. And this would mean that all the subjects they're studying are at the Year 7 level. Obviously, with challenge and support as needed, but essentially they are Year 7 level courses because that is the expected level that children of aged 11 are working at. We work slightly differently at Wolsey Hall. We look at an individual child's ability, competence, and previous curriculum knowledge and experience to make sure that they are studying at the right level for them, no matter what their age is. So we are very proud to offer that flexibility to our homeschooling families. So we may have a student who is primarily working at Year 7 level, aged 11, but is finding that they really excel in mathematics and they wish to study at a higher level. With us, that is possible. The child can have advice from our admissions team. We can look at their prior achievement. We can complete some placement tests, and they could perhaps be studying at Year 8 or even Year 9 level. On the other side, if you feel that your child would benefit from studying at a lower level in a subject, that again is possible. So your child might want to study maths at year 6 level and the rest of the subjects at year 7 level. That is always possible with Wolsey Hall. We work with you to create that bespoke portfolio of subjects that best suits your child. We also are very pleased to offer flexibility in terms of the pace at which your child studies, due to the nature of our courses all being individual. So your child is able to progress at the pace that suits them. They can work quicker or slower, dependent on the subject or the topic within the course term. They are not waiting for a class to move on, or a class is moving on too quickly. They are, and you are as a homeschooling family, in control of your child's learning pace alongside your student progress manager at Wolsey Hall. The other thing to note about Wolsey Hall is we are accredited in a number of different ways, which I'll touch on in a moment. But this does mean that you as a homeschooling family can be assured that your child is following a recognised curriculum pathway. There's a huge amount of noise in the marketplace surrounding educational resources that are available online, in books, that homeschooling families may wish to use. At Wolsey Hall, we have designed our courses to specifically support our homeschoolers to make the best possible progress and to enjoy their studies and become confident lifelong learners. Therefore, you can be assured as a family that these courses are leading to recognised qualifications. Your child is covering the appropriate content for the level at which they are studying, and those resources have been chosen specifically to support that progress. To talk a little bit now about the Wolsey Hall secondary journey, just so you can see perhaps where your child fits in to the phases at Wolsey Hall. Now, at Wolsey Hall, we divide secondary into 3 phases. We have firstly lower secondary, which encompasses in a mainstream school years 7, 8 and 9. So students are typically aged between 11 and 14 in this point of their studies. However, bearing in mind the flexibility that I spoke about previously, there obviously is fluidity between those year groups. In lower secondary, students typically study a range of subjects that is quite broad to enable them to gain a solid foundation of knowledge upon which to build when they further specialise in the following phases of Wolsey Hall. Our Wolsey Hall courses in lower secondary are all equivalent to 1 academic year in length. So to complete the lower secondary phase of Wolsey Hall, students would take courses firstly at year 7 level, equivalent to 1 academic year, then year 8 level for the 2nd academic year, and then year 9 level, equivalent to the 3rd academic year. This then gives them that foundation of study upon which they can build. There is again flexibility dependent on previous curriculum content and the level at which and the age at which a child is entering Wolsey Hall to study in slightly different ways. And our admissions team, some of whom are here today, would be happy to advise you if you submit an inquiry form as to what would be the best fit for your child to achieve their aspirations. Following the lower secondary phase, students in Wolsey Hall move into the GCSE and IGCSE phase. This stands for General Certificate of Secondary Education, or International General Certificate of Secondary Education. These are recognised qualifications from 2 different examination boards, and your child studies the courses with Wolsey Hall that prepare them for those external examinations. Students in this phase typically are aged between 14 and 16 years old, and these courses are designed to be studied over 2 academic years. This allows students to really get to grips with the depth of content study needed and the rigour and technique needed for those external examinations. This follows directly from lower secondary, and this is where students start to specialise a little bit in terms of the subjects that they are picking. We then, after the IGCSE phase, when they have taken their external examinations, move into the 3rd and final phase of Wolsey Hall. That is the A-level phase. This is also known as, in mainstream education, as sixth form college, and so on. In this phase, students specialise that little bit more, picking around 3 or 4 subjects to study over the next 2 academic years. And this level of study is in a lot more depth. There is a lot more challenge involved, and it's a wonderful opportunity for students to really specialize in those subjects where they possess a true passion and interest. After their A-level external examinations when they've completed their Wolsey Hall courses, students then move on to higher education, such as university or further education colleges, or indeed employment. So I hope that you can see where your child might fit into Wolsey Hall and the secondary phases that we have. To move on now to the accreditations that Wolsey Hall holds. I've mentioned external exams already a couple of times, and sorry, that is part and parcel of the secondary phase. So we're going to hear a little bit about that during the presentation this morning. And I've mentioned examination boards. So these are the examination boards with whom we are linked at Wolsey Hall. So firstly, we are a Cambridge online school. This means we're part of the Cambridge family, and this is a big family of schools. In fact, there's over 10,000 Cambridge schools across the globe, and each exam sitting, students across the world take Cambridge qualifications, and that number of students that take Cambridge qualifications is in the tens of thousands every single year. So the majority of our IGCSE courses are Cambridge qualifications, and approximately half of our A-level qualifications are Cambridge qualifications. So you know, when you're working through the curriculum in Wolsey Hall, that your child is heading towards a recognised qualification in terms of Cambridge. We're also very proud to be a Pearson Virtual Centre, meaning we are able to offer our homeschooling families courses from Pearson EdXL, another examination board that is recognised on a global level. We have a selected number of GCSE and A-level subjects from Pearson EdXL that your child can take with Wolsey Hall. Our courses in lower secondary follow a blend of Cambridge curriculum and English national curriculum, meaning that when your child joins Wolsey Hall, they are able to transition from their mainstream school environment smoothly. And if your child is looking to join Wolsey Hall for a set period of time before going back to mainstream education, the curricula that they follow, both in lower secondary and the examination years, is transferable back to mainstream school. Next, we are going to just talk about the support that we offer at Wolsey Hall to our families before we move on to looking at the subjects and how the courses work. I mentioned already that we seek to establish a really strong partnership with our families. One key person who every family has a very special relationship with is the student progress manager. Alongside our student progress manager, your child will be supported by UK qualified tutors. So you have a range of support when you enroll with Wolsey Hall on your courses. To talk briefly about the tutors that your child will be working with while they complete their courses, all of our tutors are well qualified UK teachers. And that applies across all phases of secondary. Our tutors are the people that your child will be reaching out to via Canvas Messenger that you saw in the video at the beginning of the presentation to answer any questions that you may have as you are learning through the homeschooling courses. They're also the person that your child will be meeting at key points during the course to talk about their academic progress on that specific course. The tutors will be providing detailed, formative and developmental feedback on all assignments within our courses. I'm going to talk in a moment about how the courses work, but suffice it to say at this point that each course has assignments, which are the way that we track progress at Wolsey Hall to ensure your child is on track and making the required progress in so that they can continue to develop as a learner. And our tutors provide detailed feedback in terms of identifying the areas of strength that your child has shown in their assignment work, and also identifying their next steps in terms of what they need to do for their learning in terms of moving on even more. So in secondary, You may have multiple tutors because all of our tutors are subject specialists. So if you're studying 5 different courses with us in lower secondary, it's likely that you will have 5 tutors. Same way, when we come into the examination phases of IGCSE, if you're taking 8 IGCSE courses with us, you're likely to have 8 different academic tutors. So this means that you as a homeschooling family have that relationship with 8 additional people to support your child's needs in their individual academic areas. The one person who umbrellas over the academic support provided by the tutors is your student progress manager. They are your first port of call for anything to do with working through your courses in terms of the pace. They will help you get familiar with how the Wolsey Hall system works. They will be the first person that you meet when you have completed your enrolment with our admissions team, when you start your courses with Wolsey Hall. They will be able to assist you in creating an assignment schedule for your secondary studies that suits your needs as a family, because we're able to factor into your individual personal assignment schedules, family holidays, family commitments, or if your child is perhaps taking part in various extracurricular activities, we can make sure that your assignment schedule suits your family setup and still allows you to submit those all-important assignments to make progress, so that you as a family know that your child's education is still moving forward, as well as still being able to be involved in lots of wonderful things outside of the academic sphere. Your SPM, as we call them, your student progress manager, will be checking in with you on a regular basis to make sure that everything is going well, to offer advice if your child is encountering any challenges in terms of motivation or how to study, and to help you answer any questions that you may have about your child's future progression. Your student progress manager is available via email to answer any questions you have about anything to do with your Wolsey Hall courses. And if they need to, they will be able to put you in touch with other members of Wolsey Hall to help as well. So to talk a little bit in detail about how our courses work, as you may have seen in the video at the beginning of the presentation, our courses are hosted on a secure learning platform called Canvas. Within Canvas, you will find everything your child needs for their studies. In secondary, our courses are designed to be student-led. This doesn't mean, though, that a responsible adult or parent at home isn't a good tool to make the best use of the courses. Our courses in secondary are written to the students, as this takes into account the age and independence that students are typically demonstrating when they're working within the secondary phases. Therefore, your child will be able to take ownership of their learning with your support at home. They will be able to work through the modules, which is how our courses are divided in Canvas, to work through the tasks, the activities that are set, before they come to the quizzes that occur at points at the end of every single module on our courses for self-assessment, and then completing their milestone assignments that they submit to their tutor for marking. The activities within our courses are a blend of online and offline. We believe that students learn best when they are following a variety of different learning techniques and methods. So our courses, whilst we're an online organisation, and we have a number and a wealth of online activities for your child to complete while they're working through their homeschooling courses, there are also offline activities, practical activities, to make sure that your child is not sitting in front of a screen every day, that they're able to come away from the screen, complete practical art activities or even science experiments, or in terms of music in lower secondary, being able to do some composition away from the computer, and to really put into practice their learning. The majority of our secondary courses also include textbooks, which means your child sometimes has the choice between using a digital textbook or a physical textbook, and again, being able to work in a way that best suits them. I've mentioned flexibility a couple of times in terms of our Wolsey Hall courses. One way that our courses are so flexible is that there are no online timetabled lessons for your child to attend, meaning your child can complete their homeschooling studies at the time and place that suits them best. Instead, our courses have a number of videos within them. These videos structure and scaffold the curriculum and learning so that your child can, again, make the right level of progress for the level that they are working at. So they're able to revisit content within those videos if they need a little bit of additional support, rather than a class moving on at a pace when they haven't quite mastered the concept. Or if they're finding something a little bit more straightforward, they can obviously watch the content, engage with the content that is there, complete their self-marking activities, interactive activities that are within the courses, and then move on when they are ready to embark upon the next part of the module. This means there is true flexibility for you as a homeschooling family for this to fit in around your needs and for your child to engage with that learning in a way that best suits them. The courses do also include a variety of carefully selected subscriptions for your child to enjoy. These might be various different activities, such as sort of games where students can really consolidate their learning, they can revise the topics that they have studied, or indeed research ideas that they can enjoy developing at home. So to move on to now, just a little bit about the subjects that we offer in secondary. So on screen now, you can see our lower secondary courses. These are available at Year 7, Year 8 and Year 9 level. You might be wondering why 4 of them are coloured in blue. This is because they are the core courses that we would recommend all students who are following a homeschooling curriculum are studying. So English or English as a second language, maths and science. This forms the core curriculum. Now, it's important to note that at Wolsey Hall, we have no minimum number of subjects that you must take. We have recommendations, and our admissions team are very happy to talk to you about those when you submit an inquiry form. For us in lower secondary, it's about having a broad breadth of curriculum. Our strong recommendation is that the core subjects are chosen and studied, whether that's with Wolsey Hall or elsewhere. But core subjects are absolutely vital for students, as they're not only teaching that core content in those subject areas, there's also so many transferable skills taught within these courses that will enable students to make better progress in their other subjects as they move through the phases at Wolsey Hall. There's also an expectation when we move into the higher levels of Wolsey Hall that examinations in English and maths and science are taken. So having that lower secondary grounding is vital. We do offer the 2 English courses. English is an English first language lower secondary course, and English as a second language is a course for students for whom English is not their native language. However, there is movement between the 2 courses, so you may wish your child to start off with English second language with a view to moving to the English first language course as their language skills develop. Again, our admissions team will be able to give you further details of that if that is of interest. We then have a range of other subjects that your child can choose from to build their bespoke portfolio of subjects. To touch just on a few items here, we have 2 history courses. Our history is a European-centric UK history course, whereas our international history course centres around civilizations around the world. Both of them build the correct level of knowledge and skills to lead on to IGCSE history. I would always suggest picking one or the other, right? You could study them both together, but I would always say pick one or the other, purely because it then allows additional subjects to be chosen to, again, enhance that breadth of subjects that are studied in lower secondary. This is the ideal phase to explore for students to find out where their passions lie, where they really enjoy studying. Are there particular areas where they're skilled? So it's a great time to experiment in lower secondary. A few of our other courses here that are worth just noting. We have 2 courses that are technological in their outlook. So we have our digital literacy and computing courses. Our computing course is that course that is key for a pathway into computer science. It covers coding, programming, etc. Our digital literacy course is more about being a good digital citizen. So it does cover practical digital skills, but it does not cover coding and programming. So for your child, you're able to pick the course that best suits their desired level of work in that frame. If your child is interested in programming and coding, computing is the right course for them. Digital literacy is about using it in a practical environment and learning how to use the new technologies that are available to us today. So this is ideal if you are not interested in programming and computing later on. We do offer 3 foreign languages in this level as well, German, French and Spanish. They are all in year 7 ab initio, meaning you do not have to have studied them before. However, if you have, you may find that you can progress through those courses a little bit more quickly. In terms of the loading of lower secondary courses, we're often asked, how many courses should I take? In a mainstream school, students typically take between 11, 12, 13 courses in lower secondary, bearing in mind that will also include items like citizenship, sport, etc. I would always say in lower secondary, in order to have a minimum breadth, I would suggest 5 subjects is a great number to start with in lower secondary. If you are looking to have a full scope, I would be looking more at 8 or 9 lower secondary subjects, dependent on your child's previous experience and also their independent study skills. After lower secondary, we move into the external examination year groups in terms of IGCSE, first of all. As I mentioned, this covers years 10 and 11. Students start to specialise a little bit in this phase. Again, in terms of number of subjects to be taken in this phase, I would always say that the minimum number that we would recommend is 5, including English, maths and science, as this is what typically sixth form colleges and universities expect. However, there is a caveat there. If your child is looking to move on to a higher education course that is quite competitive, we would typically be advising a higher number of IGCSE courses to be taken. In a mainstream school, students study anywhere between 8 and 11 courses. So if your child's aiming for a highly competitive university, it would be at the upper end of that scale. You can see that the core subjects have somewhat exploded here in the IGCSE phase. This is to ensure that every child can pick the right pathway in terms of their core subjects, English, maths and sciences. They're able to pick the right level of detail, the right level of study to enable them to achieve that all-important level 2 IGCSE qualification. We have a range of subjects on offer that help to supplement and add breadth to the IGCSE curriculum, and they are shown in green on this slide. For all of our subjects, you are able to see details of the content that is covered and also sample courses on our website. So this applies for lower secondary, IG, and the A-level courses that I'll talk about shortly. For our IGCSE subjects, again, just as a reminder, these are designed to be studied over 2 academic years. If your child has is wanting to study at a different pace, again, that can be discussed at the admission stage. The reason that we would always recommend 2 academic years being taken is to ensure that your child has the time to master the content and practice those all-important skills before they take those first external examinations. Especially if you're looking at studying a loading of between 8 and 11 IGCSEs, that typically will represent a full study timetable for your child over 2 academic years in order to lead to the best possible outcome. After IGCSE, we move on to the AS and A-level phase of Wolsey Hall. And this is the phase where students will typically pick 3 or 4 subjects. We do have entry requirements for this level of course at Wolsey Hall. These entry requirements are there so that you and your child can understand which subjects are needed to have been studied at IGCSE and what level should be attained for the best possible success at A-level. We don't want to set a child off on a pathway that isn't going to lead to success. We want your child to succeed. We want them to achieve the best possible results when they're taking these subjects. So you will see that for the majority of our courses, your child will be required to have a C in English and maths as a minimum grade to enroll. And for some of them, such as maths or English language, we do look for an A at IGCSE level. This is also due to the fact that in our professional experience over the years, that level of attainment at IGCSE is necessary in order for a child to succeed at this level. This also does align with entry requirements when we look at sixth form colleges as well in the UK and overseas, because we want your child to have the best possible success. So our AS and A level courses come from a mixture from either Cambridge International or Edexcel. You can see that we actually offer 2 different science qualifications for each science, one being UK, one being international. These qualifications are Pearson Edexcel qualifications. We have biology, chemistry, physics UK for students who are based in the UK, biology, chemistry international for those students who are based overseas. The main difference for your child is simply how they are assessed. Essentially, they are covering the same type of content, but the style of assessment differs. In the international qualifications, the practical skill element of the A-level is assessed via a theory paper. In the UK qualification, it is assessed via a practical endorsement that is carried out at an exam centre close to you. So your child is able to demonstrate their practical skills actually in a laboratory. Parents are often a little bit concerned about, is this perceived differently when they apply to university? We can say in our experience, no, they are seen at the same level. They are both level 3 A-level qualifications. We've had students who have studied UK and international science qualifications be successful in achieving offers from top universities such as Oxford and Cambridge. So how do the external examinations work? And I'm sure as prospective Wolsey Hall parents, you're keen to know. So for us at Wolsey Hall, our courses prepare your child to take their external exams. All of our students take their exams as a private candidate at an exam centre of your choice. We understand that registering and booking examinations as a private candidate can be unsettling for a homeschooling family. So we have people at Wolsey Hall to help you. We have a UK exams officer and an international exams officer who will support you in the process of registering and booking for your exams, and also provide guidance on local examination centres. When you do join Wolsey Hall, you actually, as a family, have access in the secondary phase to an exams information course that will allow you to gain further knowledge about how to book exams and also locate exam centres near you. One thing that I do like to point out, and for parents to take note of, is if you do live remotely or in particular areas, you may find you need to travel to your most local exam centre. However, that's something, again, that we can support with in terms of helping you find out which one is closest to you. All of our courses, as I've mentioned, are recognised on a global level by universities and employers, and this means the exam centres that accept private candidates also recognise Cambridge and Pearson, and therefore give you that pathway for your child to physically, on the dates given to us by the examination boards, go to the exam centre to take their paper, for it to be sent off for marking, and then the results to be shared with you as a homeschooling family or with the centre, who will then pass it on to you. Oh, one last thing to note on the external examinations. I've talked a little bit about the flexibility with pace and level. The other thing to note is you are able with Wolsey Hall to enrol at a point that suits you. When it comes to the external examinations, we do like to make sure that you are working at, you're enrolling at a point which enables you to finish your courses before an external exam sitting. These external exam sittings are set to us by Cambridge or Pearson Edexcel. For further details of anything regarding examinations, please don't hesitate to reach out to our admissions team, who'll be happy to advise further. We also recognise at Wolsey Hall that each family is working in an individual way and may need differing support. Therefore, we have additional support services which families can choose to sign up for. We have a learning support and wellbeing service. This service is available to families once they have enrolled with Wolsey Hall to book additional paid-for sessions in areas such as study skills, mentoring. Our learning support team is very experienced in working with students with SEND needs, and they're able to give you advice and guidance on how best to approach your Wolsey Hall studies. We also have a careers and university advisory service, which can support you with choosing your subjects all the way through to making application to universities in terms of the actual personal statement, the transcripts and references required for that level. Further details as all of those services can be found on our website. So just to finish off the presentation today, I've talked a lot about academics, talked a lot about subjects. However, it isn't just about the academics with Wolsey Hall. We are committed to providing a holistic education for your child. So we are very proud of our academic courses and the progress and results that our students achieve. However, we recognise that students need other items outside of the academics to help them become well-rounded global citizens. So at Wolsey Hall, we have a strong student community where we have regular clubs that run, such as debate club, book club, Lego club, chess club, and students can choose to engage with these. We have regular competitions as well that students can be involved in, and there are some prizes to be won. And in secondary, we also have a secure student forum where students can go and meet other homeschooling Wolsey Hall students from around the world and engage with them and chat to them about topics that they're interested in. It might be their studies, but equally it might be a book that they've read or a film that they've seen recently. And these are all ways to further enhance that homeschooling experience that your child has with Wolsey Hall. We also have other items such as a virtual library where they can borrow books to just enjoy reading. And for parents, we stay in touch with you regularly via emails, and also we have a very active parent community group on Facebook as well. So I hope that presentation has been useful and contained information that was helpful to you as a homeschooling family considering Wolsey Hall. I'm going to pass back to Amber right now for the Q&A portion of this event.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ruth. We hope that you guys all found her information there really helpful. We will now move on to our question and answer section. Please feel free to ask any questions you have by typing them into the Q&A area, which you can find at the bottom of your screens. Please do let us know the age of your child and their level of education so that we can tailor our responses. And it is always useful for us if you include your country too. We will answer as many questions as possible in the time available. However, if there are any questions you still have after the event, please send in an inquiry form via our website. We will also introduce some of your questions into the live discussion now. And Ruth, I have got a couple of questions for you already. Okay. The first question is, can students accelerate in each of their chosen subjects based on their own progress?
It is possible to accelerate within separate subjects. So you don't need to follow the same pace. So if you were taking English, maths and science, the pace of each of those is designed in conjunction with your student progress manager and the assignment schedule. So if you wanted to, what we would call fast track a course with Wolsey Hall, yes, that is possible, and it can be done on an individual subject and course level basis. If you're interested in accelerated learning, please do chat to the admissions team about the specifics, including the level, because when it comes to the examinations, obviously we need to make sure that you're accelerating towards an exam sitting. Hopefully that answers the question, Amber.
I think it does. Great, thank you. What is the difference between GCSEs and IGCSEs?
Oh, that's a great question. So the I stands for international. The main difference, I'll do a main similarity. They are both level 2 qualifications. So in terms of the challenge and the rigor, they're assessed at the same level. The I, standing for international, means that the context in terms of the topics that your child is studying within the course, the frames of reference to external bodies will be more international in outlook. To give an example, I've sort of looked at the difference between a GCSE in economics and an IGCSE. So a GCSE would be a UK qualification. So it might reference as part of it a UK bank, which if you lived overseas, you wouldn't necessarily have heard of. However, the IGCSEs take into account the international nature of the students studying the courses. So it means that the context is much broader, much wider, much more accessible.
That's great. Thank you, Ruth. We've got a few science questions that have popped up. The first one is, what's the difference between coordinated science and combined science?
So the coordinated science that we offer through Cambridge is a qualification where a child will study biology, chemistry, and physics over 2 academic years, and it leads to 2 IGCSEs. It's an ideal qualification for students who are still considering science A-level. It would give them that broad foundation in the 3 sciences to be able to take any of them or all of them at A-level. And it would allow them still to expand out their other IGCSE choices because it is 2 IGCSE qualifications worth. The combined sciences IGCSE, students still study biology, chemistry, physics, but in less detail because the overall qualification is worth 1 IGCSE. So essentially they're studying similar content, but just in varying levels of depth. So the combined is a 1 IGCSE, coordinated is a 2. If we've got any UK parents here who are wondering, that sounds different to what I've heard in the UK, don't worry, that is normal. These are the names that Cambridge, the IGCSEs, follow. The UK examination boards actually use the word combined science to relate to the 2 GCSE qualification. But for us, combined is 1, coordinated is 2.
Perfect, thanks, Ruth. Another science question for you. What is the difference between UK A-level science and international A-level science?
The main difference is the method by which they're assessed. In the international science courses, students will cover theoretical skills. Those theoretical skills, the theoretical practical skills, those practical skills will be assessed via a theory paper. In the UK qualification, the practical skills that they learn and develop throughout the course will be assessed within a laboratory environment. Now, when students go into that environment, there is guidance and support given because it is recognised that not all students have the same access to equipment that you would as if in a mainstream school environment. So that practical endorsement is more about showing that your child can follow the instructions given and use the data coming out from the experiments. The courses will develop practical skills in a very safe way at home. I don't know whether it's worth touching on the experiments within science in general at that point, Amber.
Yeah, we actually have a question of how are science practicals conducted for A-level students. So that ties in perfectly.
Yeah, so practicals depend on what the practical is. As you can imagine, there is quite a difference between a lower secondary science experiment and an A-level science experiment. When we get into the A-level frame of reference, we're looking at experiments that involve quite specific equipment and often safety equipment. I mean, the one that springs to mind is fume cupboards in chemistry. There's no expectation that a homeschooling family would have access to that type of equipment. So where possible, students are able to carry out selected experiments safely at home in order to further those practical skills. For experiments which could only be conducted in the laboratory, there are worked examples, there are different activities and engagement for students to really experience that experiment, but in a remote capacity. And this enables students to, again, build the capacity and the skills needed to achieve well in the external exams. To come further down into sort of lower secondary and IGCSE, obviously the requirements for specific equipment change. So in lower secondary, there's a huge amount of possibility to carry out science experiments at home safely. All of our experiments that are to be carried out at home are designed with a homeschooling family in mind. So it's using equipment that you will find near you. It's using equipment that you typically have at home. However, if at any point you aren't able to find that equipment, your tutor is so well placed to help and support you. Our science tutors are used to being able to modify experiments to give you alternatives that you could do to enable you to still produce the same results, to be able to still experience the experiment if you're not able to source one of the items on the list. So I hope that helps.
Thanks, Ruth. I think we'll diverge away from science. We've had quite a few science questions. The next question, do you have experience of UK students starting in year 11, having been in year 10 in mainstream schools?
We do, yes. We do work with students who have studied year 10 in a mainstream school and then come to Wolsey Hall to complete year 11. The one thing that I would always say is, dependent on the year 10 studies of your child and how they align with the Wolsey Hall curriculum, this will influence the pace at which your child can study. Our courses at IGCSE level are IGCSE level. They're not divided into 1 or 2 years. So they cover the whole curriculum. So to ensure that your child has got the right background, that they have got everything that they need when they're coming from year 10 to year 11, we would be recommending that they start at the beginning of the IGCSE course, working at a faster pace to make sure that they're covering all of the curriculum, because we can't guarantee that our curriculum at Wolsey Hall will align precisely with that which is studied in school. But yes, we're very experienced. Our admissions team can help you with that.
Perfect, thank you. We've had a few questions pop up about kind of academic years and terms. So generally, does Wolsey Hall have term dates or specific school holiday dates? And how do academic years influence kind of students outside of the UK? Do international students have to follow UK academic years? So starting in September, for example.
So essentially, no, we don't follow any standard academic year at Wolsey Hall. You're able to enrol with Wolsey Hall in the month that suits you. And whilst we obviously have students studying in a typical sort of UK Northern Hemisphere cycle, starting August, September, and finishing in June, July, we also have students following the Southern Hemisphere, starting more in the December, January time. However, we have people starting all the way through the year. The one thing to consider is if you are looking at enrolling on an examination course, because we have to look at when those external exam sittings are. So typically at that point, you will find you will naturally fall into one of the hemispheres normally. There is flexibility with it. We have no set rules regarding when you must start, but obviously we want to make sure that your child has enough time to complete their examination courses to take the targeted exam sitting. Does that answer the question, Amber?
Perfect, thanks, Ruth. I think it does. Where are exams taken, and do our exams officers help with exam bookings?
So exams are taken at an examination centre. Examination centres vary, so it may be a specific organisation set up purely for students to take exams as a private candidate. You can see a few details of them on our website as well, the ones that we tend to work with, but also there are a number of schools that accept students as private candidates. So these are physical environments where students go on the timetable day to take their papers. What was the second part of the question, Amber? Sorry, I got focused on the first part.
Do the exam officers that we have at Wolsey Hall help with booking exams, essentially?
They do indeed, yes. So our exams officers support all families in terms of registering and booking at exam centres. We send you information about how to do that as part of being enrolled with Wolsey Hall. However, the exams officers are also there to support individual families as well. So if you have specific questions about your child's exam enrolments, they are there to help.
Perfect. I think that covers all of the exams there. Thanks, Ruth. Diverging slightly into languages, got a question about languages at IGCSE. How do we enable the speaking part of the modern foreign language courses we offer without face-to-face teaching?
Well, the assignments in the IGCSE language courses develop all skills. So students are doing written work and also they're doing spoken work as part of those assignments. There is also within our IGCSE MFL courses speaking, I don't want to call them a test because they're not, but speaking moments where your child will meet with their teacher for speaking practice. The practice was the word I was looking for there. So they will be completing as part of the course speaking work, but there will also be key moments where they speak with their tutor to practice their spoken language of the previous modules that they have studied. And those times where they meet with their tutor, they are very structured in terms of the spoken language that they go through. So they will be making sure that your child is practicing the techniques that they need for completing those all-important role plays, the open conversation questions that come up in the languages IGCSE. Just to sort of touch briefly on another element, we also offer at Wolsey Hall a mock exam service as well for families who wish to take that up. There is, of course, a mock exam service for French, German and Spanish, and that would incorporate completing a full speaking test. So your child really has that experience before they go to do their speaking test as part of their exam.
That's great. Thanks, Ruth. I think we've got time for one more final question. How do students interact with each other at Wolsey Hall? Is there an opportunity for interaction between our students at all?
There is, in terms of the community that we have at Wolsey Hall. So there's a variety of clubs that students can engage with. Some of those clubs actually have monthly meetups where students can go along and speak to each other. So Debate Club is a really good example of that, where students go along every month to debate a topic that has been preset by a Wolsey Hall tutor, and they can get to know each other in that capacity. Other clubs such as that work in a similar way are Creative Writing, with monthly meetups there to really inspire students to develop as their own author. And then we also have the Secondary Student Forum, where students can meet each other online in a safe, monitored environment and discuss topics that are of interest to them.
That's great. Thanks, Ruth. I think that's all we've got time for in terms of questions. As we're running out of time, I would just like to let you know how you can find out more if you have still got any questions about homeschooling with Wolsey Hall Oxford, or would like to discuss your child's studies with one of our admissions officers. If so, as you can see on the screen, please complete an inquiry form by pressing on the Contact Us button at the top right of the Wolsey Hall website, and then click on More Information or to enrol. Our admissions team will then send you some course information and arrange a meeting or a phone call with you, during which they can give specialist advice about subjects and course levels. Admissions might also recommend some online ready tests or placement checks to help you choose the most appropriate level of study for your child in each of their chosen subjects. Finally, I would like to extend a big thank you to everyone for joining us today. We do hope that you found the session useful and that it has given you a good understanding of homeschooling with Wolsey Hall. If you have any further questions, please do go to our website and submit that inquiry form, and our admissions team will be delighted to help you. So once again, a big thank you to everyone, and have a lovely rest of the day. Thank you very much, Ruth, as well.